Getting sales reps to hit quota is one thing, but building a high-performing, metrics-driven sales org that consistently crushes targets is another. Hey, I'm Marcus Shan, former #1 sales director of Cintas Corporation, where I led a 110-person sales force to profitably deliver over 190 million TCV each year, and now I'm a sales training coach to the fastest-growing companies and reps in the world. Today, I had the chance to sit down with Sean Bartlett, a powerhouse sales leader who has mastered the art of coaching and developing elite sales team. Now, Sean doesn't just manage numbers, he builds cultures where success is inevitable. With a deep understanding of AI data-driven strategies and psychology of high performers, he's turned underperforming teams into revenue-driving machines. In this episode, we're diving deep into the underrated coaching tactics that separates good leaders from great ones, how to identify and develop future rockstar reps, why emotional intelligence and personal goal alignment are game changers in sales leadership, and the mindset shifts that top SaaS sales leaders embrace. If you're leading a sales team or aspiring to it, this conversation is packed with actual insights you can literally implement right after watching it. Let's get into it. All right, Sean, I'm pumped to have you on here, my man. You're a highly accomplished sales leader. Before we dive into just your track record and how amazing you are, can you take us back to the beginning? What inspired you to even get into sales or sales leadership?
Yeah, it's a great question, Marcus. And oddly enough, like the way I describe this is I've been selling since the beginning. That includes from trying to convince my parents to do things that they normally would say no to owning my first paper route and having to cultivate my own customers. So naturally, I've always been this person that drives convincing a large group of people to do things, whether it's my friends, my family. So it's sort of something that's always come natural to me. And studying finance and accounting in college, I thought that was the track record I was going to go down. And then I got introduced to the world of internet and sales, and sort of everything took off from there. But even in the beginning, when it came to coaching and learning, like if I figured out something and how to do something faster, I was always telling my peers and saying like, hey, check this out. This will help you move faster. This will help you do things faster. So it's something that's always been ingrained in me to be a coach and to be a leader. But the sales aspect, it's just fun. Being able to set a goal and drive towards it or drive ahead of it is something that I've always been passionate about.
I love that. It was interesting. I also used to be an architect, so I did not become an architect.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how that works, right? Interesting because you study finance and business. What made you decide to go into sales? Was the job description amazing? What got you like, all right, I'm going to totally pivot now, mom and dad. Let me see what happens.
Yeah, I think it was all about my personality and my friends saying like, this is something you need to go and do. My friends, my wife, they always refer to me as the mayor, somebody that's commands an audience, and that just gives me the opportunity to do that. But also to convince somebody to do something that's going to have impact and value on them is what makes it so passionate for me. Being able to do that, being able to convince somebody, being able to talk to them and solve their problems is something that just excites me. Marcus, it's something that I love to do, to know that I could help somebody solve a problem or help them improve something that they're doing from a process or business perspective. It's a big win. Makes you feel good.
It's so true, right? I found the best salespeople are that way, where it's not about just trying to like get them to buy, but you're actually trying to help them solve a problem, make their lives, their business, organization far better. Now,
Yeah.
as you go back in time, right? What that career trajectory kind of look like? You graduate college, you go in that first role, what that role look like, and how is kind of your career from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I went into telecom sales out of college, pounding the pavement, actually walking through buildings. I know that that doesn't exist now, but like walking through buildings, meeting and asking individuals, getting through gatekeepers live, like that helped sort of build the foundation of how to handle no really often in sales, and like why it was so important to get to that no. So that's sort of the path that I started. So I spent some time in the telco industry. From there, I went to the business development, business intelligence industry with Thomson, which was fantastic. And that's what opened my world to leadership. I did very well there, got to spin up an inside sales team as a young professional at 26 years old. And it was awesome. And then from there, I moved to Forrester, which is like such an unbelievable brand. And that's really where leadership and sales took off for me. I think when you have a great brand like Forrester Research behind you, when you're able to solve business problems and consult businesses on a day-to-day from a marketing and an IT standpoint, it just was fantastic. Like that's the core of where things happen, whether it's on the tech side or the customer facing side of a business. That's sort of opened my world to B2B enterprise sales. And before long, I needed a change in my career. I wanted to do something different, and Forrester stepped up to the plate, allowed me to lead a business development team along with a group of customer success managers. And I always had this passion for new business. I've been into new business as a part of my sales career my entire life, my entire career. So when it comes to executing and a new business strategy, I always say that it takes a certain level of crazy to only want to do new business sales
Oh, yeah.
because it's just the toughest part. You're cultivating relationships from nothing. I still had that passion for it. And a VP of sales there said, "Hey, Sean, we want you back in new business sales." And I immediately took over a group of peers, which was a challenge. The biggest challenge that you face as a sales leader is all of a sudden you're managing people that were your peers like 2 days ago.
Right.
And a lot of lessons are learned there, right? And I think the big one that I learned is the moment that you put the same expectations that you had on yourself on another individual, they'll fail like 1,000% of the time. So I had to learn that I had to meet people where they're at. And that's what opened up that opportunity. And that started my path down to sales leadership back in 2010. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
I think first off, mad respect, right? Because you came from the telecom industry. It's straight knocking on doors, pounding paint, wearing through your dress shoes. I came from a very similar industry where it was all in the field. Like you're really walking businesses, you're getting the business cards, you're calling them later. You're like you got to know how to grind, if you will, right?
Yep.
What's interesting is actually that same industry, they still do that to this day. Like it works to a certain extent, right? You find those leads and get in front of them. I'm curious, right? Because I'm sure you've seen it over time. I've seen it over time. Like every great sales professional eventually gets to a point where they get tapped on their shoulder and say, "Hey, Sean, would you like to maybe lead a team? Would you be interested in becoming the manager?" Like for you, how did you know that was a move? Because I think for a lot of people, they're like, "Wow, I'm making a lot of money. Do I want to do that? Like I might get paid less." Like what made you decide I'm into becoming a leader?
I had been spending a lot of time being a team lead and coach for reps around me. So people are always coming to me for advice. And it was like free at the time and helping people out, helping them close deals. And all of a sudden I was like, hey man, I can do this at scale. Like if people are coming to me and like not going to their leader and asking me for help, there's a window and opportunity and a problem to solve. And yes, like it is less money, Marcus. Like when you go into leadership, you're going to take a hit, but the ability to impact an individual and help them bring the most out of themselves, there's nothing more rewarding. It's selfless to me. I love taking the mistakes that I made and taking an individual and seeing if they're going to have a similar experience and helping them get past that mistake faster or to take the lessons that I've learned to help them improve themselves. It's a very rewarding career and a very rewarding path. Yep, there's tough decisions that need to be made. Yes, there are tough situations, and that's where experience and my ability to help make those quick decisions in those situations will allow for a better environment for the sales professional.
I love that. It's funny, right? Like over the years, as I coached people, I was a leader for a long time as well. And I would have these reps say, "Hey, listen, I'm maybe looking at leadership or want to go to the next level, mid-market, enterprise, et cetera, whatever." But they weren't sure. They're kind of at a fork. And I always ask them this one question. I would say, "Hey, listen, what gets you more excited? Number one, you closing a deal, or number two, you help show someone how to close a deal and they close a deal."
Yeah.
And it's so amazing because I realized that early on when a mentor asked me that same question. I'm like, I love helping people close deals. That level of fulfillment you mentioned, it's so deep. It's more exciting than any big check you get in the bank. When their lives change because you're coaching, and obviously you had that, that's pretty cool. So, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, right? Because even though you are impacting a lot of lives, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns,
Yeah.
What was maybe the biggest challenge you faced as a sales leader and how'd you overcome it?
Where do I start? Every day is a different challenge, but I think sometimes the biggest challenge is being upfront with the person when they're just not going to get it. You have to be able to deliver that message. I mean, most sales leaders, they'll bat 50-50 when it comes to hiring a professional. So like you have to be able to fail fast in that environment. If you make a mistake, you have to be willing to own up that you made a mistake. And I've made a few bad hires. We all have. It happens. Maybe a few is an understatement, but it happens.
Yeah.
But I think the ability to admit failure in that situation and to move on is difficult because you're impacting a person. Right. You brought them on board thinking they could do the job and then they can't. And that's happened at every company that I've been at, where sometimes you move too fast and make an uneducated hire or not a fully thought out hire because you're moving so fast, and you have to be able to move past that regret really, really quickly. So I think the biggest lesson learned is you have to be able to move past regret And as much as I tell reps to fail forward, for sales leaders, like, you can't dwell on the past. You got to keep marching on.
Yeah. It's such a powerful lesson you shared there, especially in a hiring perspective. As you know, it's like you get so many applicants, you do so many screenings, the whole process. By the time you get to an offer, you're like, thank goodness, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously, like, still, it can be hit or miss regardless. Some people
Yeah.
just nail every part of the interview. They get on the team, you're like, what happened? Was there anything in particular in your own interview and hiring process you started implementing that maybe help increase the likelihood? It's never 100%, but increase your likelihood of hiring maybe a potential future rock star?
Yeah. I lead my interviews by saying, hey, Marcus, it's been great to catch up with you. I'm excited to hear more. What questions do you have prepared for me? And I want to see what homework they did. I want to know that they came prepared to the interview. And then I'll start to dig deep into like what's going on in their world. I'll ask them, if I were to call your last leader, what would they say about you?
Love it.
Because I'll do that, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'll call past leaders to see, what they say about individuals because I'm trying to find their go factor. A lot of leaders will say, what motivates you? I don't ask that question. I'm like, what goals are you trying to aspire to this year? And like, what do you want it to look like 5 years from now? Like, I'm trying to see what their aspirations are. And then I also really focus on regret. I know I talked a little bit about that a few moments ago, but one of the questions I typically lead with is, Marcus, if you had the opportunity to go back in time and give yourself advice, how would that person be and what would you say?
Mm,
It
I
helps
love
me
that.
scale somebody's regret. And
Yeah.
like if they go way back, I'm like, oh man, this person holds on to stuff pretty bad and hasn't learned a
Yeah.
lesson. So it helps me determine a person's forget factor and how they move forward and whether or not they have an open mindset. Like the
Oh,
further back you go, the more closed mindset that you have and your ability to move forward and grow.
well, what's really cool about that question is it gets them to really see how self-aware they really are,
Yeah.
how they really internalize past mistakes maybe they made or things they've done. But on
Mhm.
top of that, it's like, wow, like did you learn the right lesson from that situation? Because sometimes some
Yeah.
people we find learn the wrong lesson. They keep repeating
Yeah.
that same mistake, you know? Now, we talk about hiring a little bit, right? And there's time, I'm sure it's happened to you. You mentioned taking over teams, right? Like we all wish every team we took over was just a rock star team and kind of sit back and they just crush it. That's just not usually the case. Has there ever been a time where maybe you took over a team that was, for lack of a better term, maybe a bit of a dumpster fire? They're not performing. And
Yeah.
then what happened if that was the case?
Yeah, so that happened twice to me at Forster. I was just known of taking over a team and taking a failing situation and
Yeah.
bringing it up, whether it was covering the Mid Atlantic or the
Mm,
Midwest. And what's really weird, Marcus, it just came down to process and
mm,
KPI measurements,
yeah.
right? You can set a certain number of KPIs, calls, emails, meetings, but every individual operates differently. So some person may require less meetings to get the number of opportunities. Some people may need more. And it's taking a look at that landscape and to understand the body of work for that individual person to see where we need to tweak and move things. So it's like you create like a baseball batting average.
Right.
There's a good analogy. Like
Yep.
how many at bats do you need to get a hit, and then how many at bats do you need to get a home run, or and so on and so forth. How many times are you looking at a ball or a strike before you actually get a meeting set? How are you looking at the pitcher? How are you evaluating those individuals? There's so much to that, evaluating the talent to make sure that you understand each individual's success. And sometimes you have to move quickly on somebody that's just not a part of the team or not a part of the group. So I definitely want to identify the individual that is going to cause or has caused the most trouble to see how we can move past or move on, or anybody that's been a naysayer, how to move past or move on, because you want to create an environment where everybody's sharing and working together. So the one things that I try to do running a Friday meeting where we talk about successes and failures of the week, it's important for everybody to hear those things and making sure that everybody contributes and comes prepared for those discussions and helps me evaluate the talent as well.
I love that. You know, the first 30 days is so critical. You take care of that team, right? You're identifying who are your superstars, who are the best of the best, who are your rising
Yeah.
stars, and which are your falling stars. The people that are just like, oh, we don't know what's going to happen with them. You know, that
Yeah.
maybe they're the naysayers, whatever. What are maybe some things you look for to identify maybe the naysayers, the people that potentially are just not going to make it? Because that's usually a big part, right? You kind of like, you remove the bad stuff, suddenly, weirdly, the team starts performing better. Like,
Yeah. So when I first meet with individuals in my team, they have to run to criticism,
yep.
question everything, challenge authority, right?
Awesome.
And those that don't come to me, I know that's going to be a problem. If you're not willing to reach out and introduce yourself and come to me, like that's a bit of a problem. Like I can meet people halfway, but you have to be open to taking that first step. And that shows me that you have the initiative to come in and introduce yourself, to put time on my calendar, to talk to me about yourself and what you have as goals. So I think it's like those that take initiative are those that I look
Mm.
for. Like one of my best reps at Zoom Info, every day, Marcus, she'd call me and say, can you listen to this call? Can you take a
Mm.
look at what's going on? Can you help me to see where I can improve? Those are A players. A players are ones that
Yeah.
invest in themselves. So I want to see somebody that's going to take the initiative to move forward.
You know, I love that so much. You know, it's like, do they have that inner drive? Because either you got it or you don't. See, I can't
Yep.
make you want it. It's
You
right.
can't coach to drive. You
That's
can't.
right. What I've also found is most teams, most reps, generally speaking, across the board, not just at Zoom, really anywhere, most get very little or zero coaching. They don't get any help. Their manager is just too busy running around with their hair on fire. Can you walk me through maybe your coaching philosophy? What's maybe an example of somebody that was not performing the level you wanted to, and how did you turn them around?
Yeah. So sometimes when you're so in it and you're not performing well as a rep, you don't recognize what you're doing wrong.
That's
And you
right.
could say, like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I've been doing it the same way. And I think, like, the beautiful thing about where we are today, where you have great conversational intelligence software out there,
Mhm.
and you can go back and listen to calls and understand like what's going on in discovery. Like, one of the most challenging things to do is to listen to yourself
That's right.
on an AI call. And like one of my big pieces of advice for a lot of my reps, a lot of my senior reps has been go listen to a call, take notes, coach yourself, and then we'll come in and discuss and we'll see where things are missing and they will find something out. So it's like the willingness to go and invest in yourself to improve
Mm.
is such a big aspect to doing better as a sales rep or coaching. Like I said earlier, run to criticism. If somebody's like, take a listen to this call, did I say this right? Or the ones that are willing to take a risk on trying something different. But really, a lot of my coaching, Marcus,
Mm.
starts with discovery
Yeah.
because deals are for me are won and lost there. If you don't get to the why, if you're not getting to the business challenge that they're trying to solve for, if you're not understanding the financial impact that that's going to have on a business, when you have to talk about your product, there's no fit,
Mm.
right? You have nothing to align it to. So think about it. It's discovery, educate, align, right? And then find that path down to next step or close that deal. And I think a lot of times reps spend too much time thinking about, I have to talk about myself and my product before really focusing on where discovery is. So like I find that most reps abandon what's going on in discovery and get into a show and tell. So that's
Mhm.
a lot of places where deals get won and lost.
100%. So, well, I think a lot about too as a leader, and I think a good leader is very good at coaching the very logical parts of the process, which is like, let me coach you now how to run a better discovery because you're basically product vomiting on them. Let me coach you now how to do a proper demo. Very logical, right? That's like the mind piece. But the most elite leaders I find, and obviously you're one of them, which is they not only know how to win the minds of their people, but their hearts too.
Yeah.
And they're doing so many different ways. So for you, what are maybe some ways you've done in the past to really make sure you're winning them beyond just their mind, but also their hearts as well?
Yeah. So you have to get to know your reps.
Mm.
You have to know it's not about what motivates them. It's like, what's your personal goals for this year? I posted on LinkedIn the other day, have you defined your SMART goals for the year? What are your short term and long term goals? What's your professional and personal goals? As a sales leader, you need to invest in them so they'll run through walls for you. It's like building a family, right? But you're choosing the people that are going to be in your family here, your reps and those individuals. You have to be vehemently passionate about their success because they'll do more for you if you're invested in them. It's not just about the deal. It's not about them selling. You have to enrich them, offer suggestions for books or a class to take or a video to take a look at. Like just being an open leader and individualizing that coaching
Mm.
is so important, especially when you're leading sales leaders, like helping them understand how to really connect with their reps so you can get the most out of them starts with the foundation. Have you invested into understanding what's going on with them personally? How
Mm.
much do you understand them? It doesn't always have to be about business, doesn't always have to be about the deal. It has to do with getting to know them and they'll fight for you. Like I have a very good record of keeping reps for a long time, both like sales leaders and reps that want to stay with me or go with me to new places because I invest in them. Therefore, that they want to give their time to me, they trust me, and building that trust comes from getting to know them.
Mm. I love that. Now, what's interesting too is you mentioned obviously winning the hearts and minds of not just the reps, but also when you manage another layer of managing sales leaders, right? Because that's a different game now, right? Managing
Yeah.
the ICs who are out there in the field, running calls, closing deals. Then you're managing managers who are managing the reps. It's a different game. So, what are maybe some
Yeah.
words of wisdom of leading leaders that maybe you wish you had, when you got started leading leaders?
Man, it's all about how to help them hire, train, and ramp reps as
Yeah,
quickly as possible.
right.
And again, it's the same lesson. I had a certain expectation on myself as a leader. I can't put that same expectation on the leaders that I'm leading. I have to understand how they're trying to get there, how they're connecting with their reps. But the time that you need to invest in a rep is what's going to drive your success.
Mm,
But like what also I have found is that I want my leaders focusing on the reps that are going to drive the most productivity for them. And then anybody that's challenging for them, those few that aren't hitting their number, let me handle that. I'll
mm,
take that on for you so you can focus on your closers and I can work on helping to coach and train and develop. So one of the things that I think is super important to do is that you have a coaching plan every month. It does not change. It does not deviate. Here's the topics that we're going to focus on as a leadership team to ensure that our group is executing and that they're doing what they need to do. So one time it could be on closing. The other one could be asking discovery questions. The other one could be on negotiating or finding the no in a deal. Like you can pick
mm.
any of those aspects, but there are different layers in the sales cycle that you can work with your leaders on to coach. And it's got to be a collaborative environment. You have to be looked to as the leader of leaders to help make difficult decisions. But collaboration is so super important when it comes to working with your team.
I love that. It's one of those things where it's like you're arming them with the tools, the resources, the structure, the vision to help them be successful in that leadership role to help lead their specific sales org, right? Now, I'm sure you probably have promoted maybe a rep who's performing really well into a sales leadership role. That's always a hard transition for a lot of reps, right? To make that first initial move. It was hard for you. It was hard for me. It's hard for probably every rep who's made that move to
Yeah.
leadership. Was there anything that you've done in the past you found to be effective in really helping prepare them for that role, whether it's beforehand or once they're in the role to help
Yeah.
make sure that they can just make that transition as smooth as possible?
Yeah, so I highly recommend to have them be a team lead ahead of time. So
Good.
what that means is like they're still an individual contributor. You pick 2 or 3 reps on your team for them to coach and work with and sort of get them in that aspect, helping them solve a problem or helping them close a deal that a rep's working through and see if it's something that they're comfortable with. And then also sitting in the background of a coaching conversation to see how they can deliver feedback and tell somebody that they may need to change how they're doing something is important because those are the difficult conversations. So you want to help put them in environments to see how they'll respond to a difficult conversation or to see what it's like to lead individuals to set goals for them. So I think it's important to sort of allow them to test the waters
That's right.
for 6 months at a minimum
Yeah.
before you decide to move forward in a full leadership role.
I love that. Just getting to warm up, ease into that role, right? Before
Yeah.
they're fully into that. So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
dropped into it.
yeah,
Nobody was like, "Here's how to
right,
be a leader, Sean. Like, this is
right,
how you do it."
right.
There's a lot of learning on the job. Like, a
Oh
hundred
yeah.
percent, there's a lot of learning on the job.
You're spot on. I think every leader has probably felt that where it's like, good luck. You were great as a rep, so hopefully you can do the same thing as a leader.
Yeah, go make more of you, right? Like,
Yeah,
go make more of you.
just duplicate yourself somehow. Got it.
Yeah,
No idea how
yeah,
to do
yeah.
that, but
Real easy.
sure.
That's so easy.
Right. It's like, oh, very different skills I actually have to learn now. So now we're going to pivot a little bit, right? Because I think a lot of teams these days, over the last couple of years, they're so used to the inbound lead flow and pivoting to cold outbound, getting new logos, the whole thing. You came from a world, it was all new logos. I came from literally all new logos. I've only
Yeah,
ran new logo teams my entire career. And I'm used to that, right? I ran 100 plus employee organizations. Literally, we did all new logo. That's all we did, right? I freaking love it. But
yeah.
not a lot of people are wired like you and I, Sean. They love the new logo hunt. Can you share strategy for getting new logos? Let's just say, for example, you're taking over a team. They've never done new logos before, and that's a really big focus initiative for the upcoming year. What would be the strategy of getting them all on board to be able to basically transition to a new logo team?
Yeah. So at the start, you have to compensate. You
Yeah.
have to make the value of a new business logo far greater than doing an upsell or renewal. The value, if you make that value of a new logo more important to them, they'll go after it and they'll go get that goal. So a lot of it is incentive based.
Hmm.
So like the first person to get the 10 new logos, we'll give them a $5,000 kicker. You have to incentivize those individuals to go out and get it. But you also have to look at who your clients are today to identify the easy targets for you to go after. So if you're specialized and you do well, say in the retail space, like, hey, you're doing great here, but you also have stories to tell about how you've helped customers. Like, how you've helped them execute. So it gives you an opportunity to go after those new logos with education and with understanding of what's going on in that space. So it's taking a look at your existing customer base, identifying areas of success, and then identifying that target market that you want to go after and go after it.
Mm. I love that. And how about from a hiring perspective? Because reality is, as you and I both know, sometimes that team you took over who's only used to inbound leads, that's what they were promising they got hired. Hey, you're going to have X number of leads each week on your calendar. You just basically
Yeah.
take an order. And now they're like, I have to go do what? I got a cold
Yeah.
call. I got to write sequences. I got to do outbound. It's a harder sales process. It's a harder sales cycle. My deal size. I mean, they have all these worries and they may not be able to cut it. If that new leader is kind of stepping in that place and they had to go hire potentially some backfills, the people that are going to make it, right? Or complete replacements for the team. What advice would you give them in terms of how they might want to change their hiring process? Because it's obviously a different profile now.
Yeah, 100%. Any true hunter will prospect.
Yeah.
And some of my best reps at ZoomInfo, I know that you get a ton of leads put on your calendar every day at ZoomInfo. Some of my best reps still cold called on their own every day.
I love it.
And I think it's about identifying individuals that like creating their own success. So in the interview process, you really have to dig deep on how are you cultivating your deals? Are they handed to you or are you finding them on your own? The thing that I found out, Marcus, over time, like when it comes to coaching reps and them identifying deals on their own, those deals end up being their larger deals.
Yeah.
Their larger ACV or ARR deals. Like those are the ones that you can hang a 100K deal, 200K deal, or 500K deal on because you cultivated that on your own. You built the relationships on your own. You identified the problem and you went out and got it. I just find that to be so rewarding. And I would tell a story from my background. You know, still to this day, to book a cold meeting is more difficult than it is to close a deal.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
To be able to show the value of being able to book a cold meeting and what that means to you and how that's going to help build your success, you're writing your own path. You're not waiting for somebody to do it for you or to put a meeting on your calendar. Like you want to catch that person before they inbound, right? So like that's to me more valuable. So find those reps and individuals that find value in their work and not just are a professional person that runs demos.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. Now, I love your overall coaching philosophy, your leadership philosophy. Was there any particular maybe book or resource you read over the years that's really has kind of had the most impact on you as a leader? Or is it maybe a book you'd recommend for anyone who wants to improve their leadership skill, an existing leader, or they're about to step into leadership?
Yeah, so there's a great book called The Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Oh, yeah.
Growth and professional growth is so much about your mindset. And like when you read that book and understand what a fixed mindset and what a growth mindset means, it helps you evaluate your team and like what's going on there. The second book, and I can't remember the author, was The Five Dysfunctions of a Team.
Patrick Leoncini or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right,
Yeah.
Patrick Leoncini. And like when you look at the five dysfunctions of a team and like how accountability and building trust is so important that as a sales leader, the first one is the growth mindset. How do you look at yourself and how do you view yourself? And how can you get out of the fixed mindset if you're there and put yourself in a growth mindset where you're constantly learning, doing things like this, right? Like where you and I are chatting, like how are we growing ourselves and putting ourselves out there? And then looking at the five dysfunctions of a team and how you evaluate the people around you as a leadership group and how you go to war together. So I think those are the two best books to recommend. The first one is a reflection of yourself. The second one is a reflection of how you lead and how you evaluate your teams.
I love it. I read both those books. Both are fantastic books. I mean, even with grit, that applies to literally reps, leader, really anybody, right?
Yeah.
You want to grow, right? Man, our time has flown by. Before we wrap up, last question is, if you were to give one piece of advice to other sales leaders that are looking to improve their team's performance, what would it be?
So many things to say here. I think the one piece of advice I would give to individuals, and I said this earlier, get to know their goals and drive with them towards their goals. And you also need to educate them on what your goals are as well and have it be a shared environment. Like you cannot succeed together in separate situations. Like you all have to have a common personal goal. It's not just a quota, right? Like it's not about hitting goals. Our goal is to get to 120% this year. And like, no, my goal is to buy like a $250,000 Porsche. That's what I want to do. And like, I want people around me that want those same things and let's go get it. What's your goal? Like, what do you want to see? So like, it's that sharing and getting to know everybody's goals for that year and what they're looking to get to and go and fight to get there. And the story I can say is in 2021, I set a goal to buy a beach house and I shared that with the team and we finished first And I was able to go do that. And they were all able to go through things as well, whether it was getting a new home or getting a car or getting engaged. Like, to know those things and to share those stories with individuals as a team and to execute on them and talk about them often in a team environment, it shows support and it shows that you're all in it together.
I love that so much, Sean. It's funny. I think you and I were cut from the same cloth, if you will, from the door-to-door days of B2B, if you will. Even that philosophy, because I've always been a firm believer. I'm like, I don't even talk about quota with my team. All we talk about is their personal goals, which you and I both know they're far past quota. Like, whatever the personal goal is, whether it's to perform at a high level, have more free time with their family, to give back to their church and donate money, to be able to go on an incredible vacation or whatever. I'm like, if I help them achieve their goals, man, hitting quota is a byproduct. Hitting President's Club is a byproduct. It's going to happen anyways, because what they want out of themselves is far greater than what the company actually wants.
Yeah. You have a happy rep, fulfilled rep, they'll do anything for you. Like I said, 100%. They'll run through walls for you.
I love that. I love that. Well, I love the conversation. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you, and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Do you want me to give my personal email? I could do that too.
Whatever you feel comfortable with. It could be.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me there. My personal email is Sean_Bartlett@yahoo.com. My personal cell, 781-603-5671. I'm here to help people, I'm here to find also my next opportunity. So it's been great for me, Marcus. It's certainly been a pleasure and a great conversation. Every time I do this, I find and learn more about myself. So thank you.
Well, you're an amazing guy, Sean. I'm not surprised at why you've developed so many top performing reps, teams, and leaders, from your philosophy of how you think about sales to coaching and everything else. My man, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate it.